Hi, this is a quick video on giving you hints for your next project, project number 9. Let's go to the assignments page and scroll down and look for project 9. And the project can be found in the workbook on page 72 and 74. If you don't have those pages, or if you have an older version, you can download the PDF version. Here's your research question for the project. How does the amount of fiber compare in adult and child cereals? So the idea is to create box plots. And so that's what we're going to do in this video, and then after that it'll be up to you to write up your project. So let's create our box plots. First, we need to deal with the data, and if you don't have your data set in your Google Drive, as we did in the previous assignment, you can click on this assignment link to September 1st, our Google Drive and Project 7B assignment, and this will walk you through some of the steps where you would get the link and then save it onto your drive and then work with that. So let's say you have that information already, and here is the serial data. You want the original serial data. Remember that we had made a copy for Project 7B so that we didn't disturb the original data. We're going to do the same thing for Project 9. So I'm going to click on this down here. I'm going to create another sheet, or I'm going to duplicate this sheet. If I click on this, it'll say duplicate. And now I have a copy of the serial data. Now I'm going to go ahead and rename that to Project 9. And then now I have this sheet that I can totally mess with while the original serial data is still preserved. So I'm going to go back to Project 9. I'm going to need to sort this by target like I did before, and I want to keep the fiber data, and I can lose everything else. So I'll go to Shelf, and what I do is I click on the D column, so that highlights the whole column. I'm going to press Shift on my keyboard. While I'm holding on to the Shift key, I'm going to press on the, not fiber, but the one right before that, so I can highlight those columns, and now I let go of the Shift button. I right click this to delete columns. If you just hit delete or cut, then it's going to leave that empty space. So you actually want to delete columns D through G, and so that'll get rid of everything in between. Now I have target and fiber, which is what I really need. I'm going to delete the rest of these columns so I can use this space to make notes of my statistics that I'm going to be looking for. So I highlighted the potassium column, and I'm going to scroll to the end of the columns, and I'm going to press Shift again. While I'm holding Shift down, I'm going to press O. That's my last column, and I'm going to right click and say I want to delete E through O. So now I've gotten rid of all those other columns. I could also get rid of these columns if I want, so I'll go ahead and get rid of those. Now I'm only working with two columns, the target and the fiber. I want to sort this by target because I want to group them by adults and by child. And as you can see, the first few rows over here have a combination of adult and child. So I want to highlight everything, and I can click on this upper left box over here between the columns and the rows, and that would highlight everything. If we go to Data and Sort Range, I can sort this data set. I'm going to acknowledge that my data has header rows because it has target and fiber on it, and I want to sort by target. So if I press Sort, we'll see that all the adults, I'm scrolling down with my scrolling wheel and my mouse, I see that all these are going to be adults until I get to 53, and then from then on down it's all child cereals. So now I want to set up a 5-number summary, a collection of the 5-number summary. Now you can do this by hand by sorting the data set for the adults and then trying to count half of the data and then 1/4 of the data, etc. But we're gonna use a quicker way to find the 5-number summary using Google Sheets. So I'm going to acknowledge that this is my adult 5-number summary, and the 5-number summary has a min, a Q1, a median, Q3, and a maximum. And then I'm going to create everything else over here for the child serial as well. So these are just labels, and I'm actually going to find the numbers and put them here. And for each of these things, what we're going to do is we're going to find the minimum of a data set, the Q1 of a data set, the median of the data set, etc. Google Sheets, like Excel, has special formulas for those. Alright, let's take a look at the formula for min. So whenever you start a formula in Excel and in Google Sheets, you start with an equal sign. And then you're going to start typing. And if you usually type in the first letter, minimum, the first letter M, you're going to get some idea of the different types of formulas that are built in that starts with whatever letter that you type. And then I'm going to type I and then N. So the minimum. Now you can click this, or you can just start with a parentheses. I think it would be good to get used to clicking these things at first, and then you can just type the parentheses later on. Because when you click on that, it tells you what you want to put in. So here's an example that they give. You put in a range of values. So how are you going to put in a range of values? So I want to include numbers, the fiber values for the adults. So this is the first fiber value, this is the second one, third one. Now if you notice that as you're clicking around, you're getting the cell number. So this is in column B, row 11, and so this is B11. The first one is in column B, row 2. You don't want to just put one number, you want to put a range of numbers. So the way to do that is you click on one and then you hold and drag. Now this might be a little awkward because as I'm clicking and dragging, I have to scroll down, and so I can capture it that way. I can scroll down until I see the adults, but I want to keep it to just the numbers. And if I stop here, I see that that's the last adult fiber that I want to count. So if I let go, I look at the box that says here min parentheses B2 and B23. So that last number that I included was from column B, row 23. And so that's those are all the numbers that I want. And then I can close a parentheses and hit enter, and I have 0 for my minimum. Okay, that kind of makes sense. That's the smallest number that I have. The maximum works the same way. So let's say equals and then max. And then I can open up with parentheses and then do the same thing. This time, instead of clicking and dragging, here's another technique that you can use. I click on the first one and then I scroll down until I see the last adult that I want to include. And so the last adult is over here, that's the number 3. Now I'm not clicking yet, so I have my pointer on number 3. I'm going to press shift, and while I'm holding on to shift, then I'll click on number 3. And then that captures everything again. I let go of my shift button. I'm going to close the parentheses and then hit enter. So my minimum is 0 and my maximum is 14. Let's get the median next. Oops, I forgot the equal sign. So notice if I type the median and then parentheses, there's no hints that tells me how to use this formula. And so that means we're not doing it correctly. So let's erase that and say equals. And then as I start typing median, I see that this ends up to be my only option. And so once I got the parentheses open, it's going to tell me what I want. Now I did some clicking and dragging. I clicked on the first one and shift click to the last one. But if you remember what they are, then you can just literally type in the cell numbers. So the first number was in B, column B, row 2. So I can type B2. Now to get to the next, or to get a range of numbers, we use the colon And then if you remember what that last place value was, that was in the same column B, but it was in row 53. So I could type B and then type 53 and then close parentheses, and so that gets me my median. So the min, the max, and the median are pretty straightforward. The Q1 and Q3, they're pretty straightforward too. Let's figure out how to do that. So this is equals quartile. Now if you notice the quartile, there's the first quartile and a third quartile involved here. So we need two pieces of information. We need the range of value, the data, and then we need to put a comma in between and then input the next other piece of information, which is a quartile number. So we have our range of numbers from B2 to B53. So that's our range of numbers. And then I'm going to say comma, and then now it's looking for the first quartile, so I'm going to type 1 in for quartile 1. Close the parentheses and hit enter. And so my first quartile is going to be 1. We'll do the same thing over here. I'll say equals quartile, open parentheses, and then the range of values that I have, which is B2 colon B53, comma, and then this time I'm looking at the third quartile. So here are my 5 number summary values. So you can do the same thing for the child. The child data starts from B, column B, row 54, and then it goes all the way to row 78. So depending on which pieces of information you kept in your data set, we have the range of numbers being expressed by these things. And then if you click on one of these things that you've already computed, if you need to change it, you can double click to actually change it in the cell, or you can click on one of them and then change it up here in the formula bar. Alright, just as another note, remember that this is the quartile. We use the quartile 1 and quartile 3. Remember the median is sometimes referred to as Q2. So I want to show you that if you say equals quartile and then the range of values that we have, B2 to B53, and then if I put 2 in here, it's actually going to give me the median. So you see it's the same number. Likewise, the min is actually Q0, as I mentioned one time in class. So if I put 0 in here, I'm going to get the same number. And then the maximum is actually the fourth quartile, so that's Q4. So if I put 4 in here and press enter, I'm going to get the same value I got for my maximum. So it's really consistent, except the minimum, the median, and the maximum are just the different names for the ways to separate the quartiles. I'm going to have you do the child on your own, and for now I'm going to make up some wrong data. So this is not correct, but I just wanted to do this so I can use some sample data to make a side-by-side box plot. So that's half of your assignment. Well, actually, about 1/4 of your assignment. And now, the second thing to do, I want to go back to the assignments and look for Project 9 again. And after you figure out the minimum, the quartile, essentially after you figure out the 5 number summary, you want to create a box plot. And so you can Google box plot online like we did, or you can just click on this link. We have a link here. The first thing that they ask is the number of box plots to graph. We're going to want to do a comparison of 2 box plots. We're going to want to compare the box plot for the adult serials. And then if you remember the data set for that, we have a 0 for the minimum, 1 for Q1, 2.6 for the median, 3 for Q3, and the maximum was 14. Alright, so the next one is box plot 2 title. So this is a child serial. And then these are made up values. So you may want to really do the commands for that to find the actual values. Now the box plot limit asks you how the number line should look like. So 0 is the minimum for both of them, so it would totally make sense to use 0. The maximum, this goes all the way to 14, so I can do 14 or 15. Doesn't really matter. And then the distance between tick marks, you can go by steps of 2, or you can go by steps of 5, or you can go by steps of 1. It really doesn't matter. It'll be up to you. Now the axis title, these are measurements of fiber, amount of fiber in grams per serving. So this would be a good title to put on your box plot. And then it says draw the box plot, draw here, and here's your box plot. So there's a copy to clipboard link over here, and that has been really inconsistent for me. So another option is to actually look at this graph, right click on the graph and say copy image, or you can do another thing where you take a snapshot of this. Alright, so that's our box plot. Now we're going to go into a Google Docs file. So I'm going to go back to my drive and say new Google Docs, and then I want to paste it on. So let me paste it on, and then we'll dress this up ready for your project. So let's first name the document with your last name and your first initial underscore and then Project 9. So I want to put a header with my name. So I'm going to just put my cursor to the left. I'm using my arrow keys to the left, and then maybe hit return a couple of times so that I can move my cursor all the way up here, and then type in all the necessary information that we have. This is going to be Project 9. So let's make this a little bit bigger and then bold it. Now the research question. The research question was, let's go back to the project direct instructions. How does the amount of fiber compare in adult and child cereals? So I'm going to just literally copy and paste. Once you have the research question set up, you want to have this graph readily available. And another thing that they ask for is the 5-number summary. So you can create a little table here. Let's see, we can insert a table, and our table will have a 5-number summary, and then we want to distinguish between the adults and child cereals. So we're comparing two things, and where we have 5 numbers, but we're going to go 1 extra row and 1 extra column for the headers. So let's go with a 6x3 box, and we can say these are the statistics: the minimum, Q1, the median, Q3, and then the maximum. And then this is for the adults, and the bottom one is for the child. And so the adults, we had 0, 1, 2.6, 3, and 14. And then whatever else we had for the child cereals. And so this will help with our analysis as we're writing our paragraphs. So we go down here and write our stuff. Your thesis would be a good place to start. I think that whatever it is you think, the child cereal has more or less fiber than adult cereals in general. And then you back this up with information about the shape, the center, the spread, if there are any outliers to look at. And then we'll talk about the 1.5 IQR rule in class. So this would be a good start for your project. Your project will be due on Thursday of next week. More specifically, it'll be due on Thursday the 22nd. So we'll have the 20th to work on it a little bit more with last minute information about the 1.5 IQR business. Okay? Alright, so I hope that's helpful, and good luck.